Good morning, students. Wish you all a very pleasant morning. I hope all of you are enjoying the cold weather at home. Most of you must be sleeping for a long time and having a very nice time. At the same time, now and then preparing for the forthcoming exams as well, I hope. So today I wish to just revise one of the chapters which we have studied, short stories what we have studied. You have already learned the story, the Chinese statue. So today let us just recall something about the Chinese statue, or rather I will just summarize the lesson. A very short summary I will be giving you that may be useful for you. So that story, the Chinese statue by Jeffrey Archer, speaks about one statue. As you know, which is that statue? The statue of Emperor Kung. So now, what is the speciality of this statue? That is what we have to see through this chapter. The story begins. How does the story begin? The story begins at an auctioneer's show. Auctioneer's show. What do you mean by that one? So a place where products or commodities are auctioned out. So the chapter begins with a product being kept for auction. And as usual, we know that there are so many different type of customers present there, audience present there, just to witness the program there. So now let us see. Now one of the product that the next product that has to be auctioned out was a Chinese statue. Now looking at the beauty of the statue, the auctioneer asked, what should I say about this statue? The beauty of the statue. And therefore, slowly the narrator began to inquire about what this statue, how this statue has reached the auctioneer's place. Why did the owner of this statue have given away this statue? Now, if he has given away this statue, most probably there should have been a serious reason. And this statue should not have been possessed by a very ordinary person. It should have been possessed by one of the aristocratic families. Now, aristocratic families, they need not give away such kind of products, something which they have considered as a family heirloom, that they need not give away. And if they have given away that one, there should be some proper reason. And they might have given it quietly without knowing anybody that their family is really facing some problems. So therefore, the narrator begins a study of the statue. The study has led to another person, Alexander Heathcote. Now, who is this Alexander Heathcote? So now, Alexander Heathcote was an ambassador to China. So who is he? Alexander was an ambassador to China. He comes from England. So a representative from England, he comes to China. And of course, he was a person, we say in the first paragraph or second paragraph, we saw that he was an exact person, a very typical, methodical person. He does everything well planned, pre-planned things he does. And now the moment he heard that he was given the duty as an ambassador to China, he was extremely happy because he was a lover of arts. He wanted to know more about the Chinese customs, traditions, and especially the Ming dynasty. So that led, how Alexander Heathcote has reached. So he had taken a long time at that time. So he traveled by sea and reached China. And he was given an opportunity to enter into the emperor's palace. And he was admiring the entire things which were there. So a lot of crafts works were there. So many statues, ivory statues and all those things. Of course, he was literally enjoying, admiring all these statues. That we saw it in the story. Now, he being and a lover of Ming dynasty. He got a chance to what is called as an ambassador. He got an opportunity to study firsthand the Ming dynasty through their statues. So he was able to study about all these things through their statues, paintings and drawings, which he had previously been able to admire only in books. So these things he had been able to admire, but that was only in books. Now he was able to admire all those things firsthand. So now let's see his visit to Halichal, a village there. During his stay in China, we said whenever he got an opportunity to move around here and there, Alexander used to visit or travel on horseback to different districts of the area. The purpose was to learn more about his countryside and his people. In one of these trips, of course, he was always accompanied by Mandarin. You know what is Mandarin? A translator or an officer, any of those things we can, who acted as an interpreter and a guide. On one such journey, he went to a small village called Halichal. So in one of those journeys, he happened to reach a small village. The name of the village was Halichal. So there, Sir Alexander chanced upon an old craftsman workshop. So there, what did he see? He happened to reach on an old craftsman's workshop. There's he entered the workshop to have a look at the delicate pieces of ivory and jade that were placed on the shelf from floor to ceiling. So a lot of things were kept there. So naturally he had an opportunity to see all those things. And naturally there was an old craftsman there, a small person. So he came there, and in fact he had shown him a very special statue which was kept in his house. Not in the shop, but it was kept inside his house. Seeing the interest of Alexander on statues, he said, I have got another one which is kept at home. That is something we keep it as a very precious one, a family heirloom. So it had been there for 7 generations. So for 7 generations this statue had been in his house. And he said, if you wish to see, I would show you. And he expressed his happiness in seeing that one, and he brought the statue. And there we see that after having seen this statue, Alexander spoke a word or a sentence that was undiplomatic. During his entire 35 years or something in his service, he spoke something that was undiplomatic. So he said that unfortunately he spoke in his mind, or rather it was heard by the Mandarin, I wish the statue is mine. Having seen, most probably it might have been his happiness that this statue is so good, so nice. So to express that one, he happened to say, and unfortunately the Mandarin, he also translated that one, and the craftsman heard that one. And we may have to say it was an unfortunate thing, because there was a Chinese custom there, the following Chinese custom, that if a guest requested something, that he wished to have something, and if it is said that if an honored guest, let's say, if an honored guest requested something, the giver would grow in the eyes of his fellow men by parting with it. By parting with it means if you give something to an honored guest, you would grow great in the eyes of that person. So you would grow, giver would grow in the eyes of his fellow men by parting with it. So naturally he had to give it away, following the Chinese custom, but with a sad look on his face, the craftsman decided to give to the Chinese statue to Sir Alexander. So this is the way how the statue has reached in the hands of Sir Alexander Heathcote. Now that is not the place we have reached. We have to go furthermore, how this has reached the auctioneer's house it is. So now at least it has reached in the hands of Alexander Heathcote. Now after having given this statue, or after having received this statue, seeing the unhappy appearance of this ambassador, the translator said, or the Mandarin said, "Sir, don't worry about this one. In Chinese custom, there is another one more tradition is there. If you receive some gift from somebody, you can reciprocate that one by giving something in return within the calendar year." And the ambassador was extremely happy. So he could give it back something in return for the statue. So he goes to the library and he studies extensively and comes across something quite similar to that one. And he found out the expense of that one. And later on we see what he plans and all those things. And in return he gives a gift to the craftsman. And we know what was the gift he handed over to him. That was a very beautiful house built on the top of the village, because he has built it on the top of the village because it was their tradition that once they grow old, they wish to live a life of retirement at the top of that village, because all the ancestors of that craftsman also lived on that same place and they wish to die there. So he handed over the house to the craftsman. So both of them have become happy, so in receiving and in giving. So then later on, so now that part is over. Now moving on that one. Now what has to be done with the statue? We see that this Alexander made a will. As per the will, the statue has to be handed over to the firstborn of the family. That means the male child, the eldest male child of the family should receive the statue from the father, and that has to be handed over to his son, and his son, it goes on. It has to be family tradition that it cannot be sold. And if there is no boy child or a male child, then it can be given to the daughter. So that was the will that was made by Alexander Heathcote, and everyone strictly followed by this one. And so making the story short, we can say that the statue was handed over to the firstborn of each family. So it handed over for many times. Then finally it reached to a person, to one of his great grandson, another Alexander. He was a spoiled brat. His father had already died when he was very small, and his mother brought him up, and rather it is said that he was such a way he was brought up, but he was such a spoiled child. He was also dismissed from, he was not dismissed, he left the school just few days before he was about to be dismissed, and such was his nature. So he spent all his family income on gamblings. So on Rolex we say that he has spent, and such a way he has ruined that there was no chance for his survival. So in one of the fine morning we say that he was literally threatened by some of his people who should have received money from him, that by few days, if you don't give the money, he would be physically attacked. So such was that situation that he has reached. And now seeing that condition, he reads the line as Alexander Heathcote had written there: if any time the family's family's name was at a stake. So anytime the family is going to face some serious problem, this statue can be sold. And he was in fact waiting for that one. Now the family's name is at a stake. So he decided to sell this statue. So he goes to an Orientalist who deals with all these statues and all those things. He goes and shows this one, and he gets a definite answer, or rather the Orientalist asked him to give him few days. Within that time he would make a study of the statue and would in fact tell him how much he would get it. And finally we see that when he returns to the Orientalist, unfortunately the Orientalist says, "I am sorry to let you know that this statue is a fake one. It is not the original one, it is a duplicate one. And you may get only just 700 or something, 700 pounds or something, which he might have expected to get at least some 10,000 pounds. That in fact, that almost shattered him. So he was about to leave, then he says, what about the base of that statue? And the Orientalist said the base is in fact a genuine one, such a beautiful one that it really is worth some 20 to 22,000 guineas. So that is all about, and we say the statue is sold for very little amount and the base is sold for a very good amount. And this is the way the statue has reached the auctioneer's house. So, who has given this statue? What was the condition that statue had to be given? All those things it is given there. Again, if you see the theme of appearance versus reality is also presented here. We see that everyone was admiring the statue, but nobody spoke anything about the base. But in fact, the base was the best one, the genuine one. So, what appearance need not be always the correct thing. It can deceive people. Okay, I hope it is clear, and now I wish that all of you go through this what is called all the stories and poems and all those things, learn by heart the poems if it's possible, and prepare well for the exam. Enjoy the days, but revise properly, study your lessons properly. Have a nice day.